I am a fool. That is one thing for certain. Hey, my name is Brian Curtis, and today I have Julie Doar-Sinkfield. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yep, just like that.
Okay. So you're a higher educational service provider and student retention service provider for higher educational students. You help college kids. We were talking a little
hmm
bit before we started here, and so I like to start with the general question of how you got to where you're at and why you decided to pursue this job. So let us know.
So I am the neurodiverse mom of two neurodiverse children. And well, I'm a career educator. And so I know firsthand what the struggles were that my kids have had going through school. I was a principal, I worked in schools that had special education programs, either charter schools or independent schools. So I got a lot of my, education on the job with regard to that. And then was blessed with two children who also needed, that expertise. But one of the challenges we had with my older son is we had him do a gap year before college, thinking that would help, the extra year he'd be older. And then we sent him off to college and it just didn't work. It just fell apart, and it fell apart epically. And so I was like, okay, go find yourself, basically, come back and talk to me when you're ready to do this again. So he started working, started in education, worked for a long time, for 7 years even, did very, very well, but was working as a contractor for an agency that supplied PE teachers part-time to schools. So he didn't need his degree. But when COVID happened, everything fell apart.
Right.
So, and I've been saying at some point you're going to have to get your degree if you want to do this. You're going to have to get your degree. And so he's like, okay, I think I want to get my life together and go back to school. So fine. So I first of all was like, I can't help you do this. I said, I've got too much going on. The girls are my two teenage daughters are in the throes of college applications and college acceptances, and they're being recruited as volleyball players, and it's just a lot. And I was like, I don't have the bandwidth. But I needed someone who could help him straighten out all the stuff in his life, help him move, help him take care of a bunch of things up to and including getting into school, and then possibly supporting him through school. And I couldn't find anybody that was offering that level of support where they could break things down for him. They could work them through with him so that he understands what the whole process is. They can rehearse stuff with him, blah, 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 and then he can execute this thing one task at a time. So if today's task is call your high school and get your transcript, that's what you do today. And I send you a reminder. The
Right.
next day's task is to keep him literally on track. And so I was talking to some people I know, former partners, former, friends, colleagues, and one of them recommended someone to me who was her niece, who just kind of seemed like the right fit of a person and was available. And I talked to her about it. And I was like, what do you think about this? Because I have this idea about what would work. And I taught her some stuff. I had to do a course on neuroplasticity. I had to do a course on executive dysfunction, on neurodiversity and how all this stuff works. And then I sat with them and I was like, this is how I think this should go. 4 months at a time, you set goals, you break those goals down into tasks, you keep him on track week to week. Each week you regroup, you work through challenges he had, obstacles he had, you talk through the pivots he had to make or should make the next time this happens. And then you set up his list of things for the next week, which may include some things from last week, but at least they're still on the table, right?
Right.
And so it worked.
Nice.
He got into school. He ended up not going because he ended up actually moving to Georgia, actually. But in the meantime, I had a friend whose son was in college, but was kind of like treading water. Didn't seem taking classes, but was not getting anything done. And so we took him on and kind of got him back on track, and on a track back to graduate again. And then I got a third kid that I know. And she failed out of school, and we helped her actually get diagnosed, get support, from the state, get back in school, and get into her first semester. So that was the kind of stuff that we started doing. And then at some point I was like, I got to make this sustainable. And so talked to a couple of my people, and we decided to do it. To both of them were with me when I opened the school 20 years ago. One was on my board, one was the principal. I was the CEO, she was the principal. So these people I've known for a long time, and she has all the degrees in special populations, accommodations and support, special education. She has a ton of degrees in that. So she's our credentials behind my idea. So
Nice.
that's how we got here.
Yeah, I can relate. I've had four different children, and every single one of them were totally different. Anywhere where one was really good at school, but emotionally was not, didn't have the emotional intelligence. One had the emotional intelligence, but wasn't good at school.
Right. Yeah.
And so assimilating information was different for everybody. And the way that they created relationships was different too. And their needs were all different. I would get home from work, and then I knew which one needed which needs.
Right.
I'm spending my emotional time with this person, and then the scholastic with them because they don't need this, and everybody needs something different. I think
yes.
And it is nice to be able to lean on somebody when you can't. It can create guilt too if you feel like you're not supplying what your child needs,
right.
because maybe
yes.
Work is getting in the way. So I'll ask you that question. Was there any kind of period of guilt for not being able to be there in some ways for him? Or
I mean, the thing is that I have no. I mean, we were there, but we were there in the capacity that we could be at the time. It was what I knew was what I knew. It was the extent of what I knew. The science wasn't even there at that time in terms of what types of things work with this population in terms of creating long-term memory, working memory, executive dysfunction, the whole neuroplasticity thing. How do we create neural pathways, that kind of stuff? The science wasn't really there, and nobody was offering the service. So, I mean, I did for him what I could, but in the meantime, he went off and got a whole life. He's a grown man. He was 25 when he called me. So, I'm not under any obligation at that point, but I was still willing to help him to the extent that I could. And that was to outsource that. And then since I couldn't find somebody, I had to supply it.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, and I'm sure it was all a learning experience for you anyway. You probably learned a lot from that whole experience.
Yes, a ton, a ton.
Right.
A ton, but I was better with my daughter when she got diagnosed, because I was already, kind of elbow deep in this, that when she had her liquidation point, basically in school, I was able to respond far more efficiently and effectively to it though. So, we do a fair amount of family coaching in addition to the client, where in terms of how that impacts the client. So, in terms of what kinds of support the client needs, sometimes articulating what their needs are and how someone can best live with them or whatever, sometimes bringing other people in as supporters, we do that too. Because we really just want them to have a very great, a high level of life satisfaction.
Right.
So, and it's possible and it's not hard,
Yeah. So how do you acquire most of your clients? Are they mostly referrals, or do people actually reach out to you because you're providing the service and they know that they need it?
Well, we're very small and very new. So, but I'm doing this business accelerator. And so I redid all my Google stuff, all my Google ads, all my Google listings, redid all that stuff. And so now people are finding us on Google. So, but we are also in the process of doing a launch for stuff. So we will be getting more people that we don't know. Up until now, most of our folks were referrals from somebody, or, that we knew or knew us or something, a friend's friend. My friend saw us on Facebook, and then they heard about their friend's problem and were like, hey, you need to talk to these people, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would have a tendency to think that most of your clients would come through referrals in some way, because it's hard for us to admit to ourselves when we need certain things, especially when it comes to, the way we're thinking and how we're interacting. It's like, oh no, I'm doing fine, but then you're failing, and it's hard to admit to yourself that, I obviously need help with something, and I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we hadn't thought about was pediatricians, marketing directly to pediatricians until my pediatrician was like, hey, I need these. My clients need these. My patients need these.
Yeah.
So, we were like, oh, wow, that's a ding, 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 So,
So
yeah.
what would you guess is a percentage of the population that falls underneath this category where they need some kind of help, just managing this process?
I mean, about 25% of our population has some type of disability, you know. Um,
Neural disability, you would say, or
uh,
neural orphan?
about 15% are neurodiverse
Okay.
right now, but they believe there's a bigger wave coming because there are so many people who have been misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. All of a sudden, these people are having kids and their kids are getting diagnosed, and they're like, oh, that's what's up with me, you know.
Right.
Um, and so there are a lot more services that are going to be needed, for people, because you hear the same stories over and over again. People often have, you if you were able to make it through high school and then you get to college is where it falls apart, even if you did well in high school. And
Right.
it's not academic. It's not, the ability to do the work. It's about all of the other adulting stuff that comes along with going to college. And you lose the natural scaffolds of high school and home, you know?
Right.
So, and you go nowhere and you end up coming back. So, there's a market out there. There are people out there who need us. We're very happy being able to provide the support to college students in particular. We work with adults who are out of school, but with college students in particular, because we know how important a degree is for social mobility,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, if you want to get ahead, if you have the capacity to be a professional, but your life is just in turmoil, get the support for that part so that you can then soar in the areas that you're good at and that you're interested in.
Right. So I'll ask you this question. I kind of alluded to it before we started talking, but in your opinion, how many of the symptoms that you see in kids are environmentally related? I have, there is so much stuff now that was not there when we were kids. I don't know how old you are. I'm close to 50, but we didn't have TikTok and these things that are constantly just triggering the dopamine response over and over and over and over. And I have witnessed, many children that are not getting pulled away from that for enough hours of the day where you're not able to interact with them anymore because they're just constantly looking for that dopamine response. So
right. I mean, the thing is that the symptoms aren't caused by these things. They are exacerbated by these things.
Right.
So you don't catch ADD because attention deficit hyperactivity disorder because you watch too many TikTok videos. That just doesn't happen, But if you already have a dopamine seeking brain and you flash all that stuff at it, it's very easy to become addicted to it.
Sure.
People with ADHD, in spite of the fact that we can't remember anything, can become addicted to things very easily if they make us feel good. And that's everything from exercise,
just like any other drug, whether it's heroin or sugar, it doesn't matter what it is. Yeah.
Anything that will make you feel better, we get addicted to very quickly because our brains are dopamine deficient. So, this is science. This is biology. This is not, pseudoscience. This is not science of the soul. This is not, this is not spirituality. This is not morals. This is literally, if you had diabetes, they would get you insulin.
Right.
Why not intervene and do this and fix this stuff while we can so that people can have a higher quality of life?
Right. I think in the future that, there'll be some advanced technologies that can actually maybe change the structures of our body. There's a really interesting doctor that I have been following for a while now, Bruce Lipton, where, he's come up with the idea of epigenetics, where we used to think that genetics were a static trait where your genetics could change, but they found that your genes can actually change according to your thinking, and especially
that's evolution.
It's easier for it to happen in earlier stages of life when you're still growing.
Yeah.
Right. So
right, but I mean that's evolution though. That's evolutionary.
Exactly.
you
But I
know,
mean, why
and
not evolve during a lifetime? Why do we have to wait, 10,000 years to
well, it's
evolve?
happening. You know what I mean? But that's happening. And our world
Yeah,
is demanding that we evolve, you
right,
know, as people become more enlightened, as challenges become greater, you know, as people emerge and need support and need to be included in our world, you know, we're all evolving and should be evolving constantly,
right.
you know. Um, and your outcomes are the sum total of all the input, you know, who invested in you, who put what in you, who invested in you in good ways, who invested in you in bad ways. So, you know, and then if you also are in a food desert and you drink soda and fried foods all the time and snack foods all the time, that's not good for brain development either.
Yeah, what's it feeding on?
Yeah,
To a
exactly.
certain extent, you are what you eat.
Yes,
Yeah,
right. You
yeah,
know, so all of these things can make something better or worse, and just liken it to any other condition. If you have cancer and you eat a lot of crap and don't take your medicine, you're going to die. You
yeah.
know, if you have diabetes and eat a lot of crap and don't take your medicine, you're going to die. Your
Right,
brain is an organ, and your brain controls all of the other ones. You know, it controls your central nervous system. So how can you expect it to work if there is a problem? And if we can diagnose it, let's get at the root of that problem so that we don't have this problem anymore.
right. Yeah,
You
all
know.
of us have these different traumas all the way around our heart system, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing that I've written about, and I've come into a much greater understanding of it in the last year, especially how if you're, and this happens when you try to serve other people, you'll understand how you are not serving them before you understand how to serve them correctly, because
Right.
you've got these
Exactly.
traumas that are trying to feed,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're not serving somebody if your trauma is trying to feed, if you've
Right.
got
Right.
anything in the way. And so by just stopping and reflecting and saying, okay, I'm not really serving this person this way, why is that happening? And you'll come into greater states of awareness, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
actually short those traumas out, and realize that, hey, I'm sucking energy here and I don't need to. And you can kind of create balance. But I think it is very difficult in today's society to create balance, because everything is so driven, and there's so many
Mm-hmm.
things out there that are trying to get your attention.
Yeah, there really are.
Yeah.
Um, I think though that we can't underestimate the impact of someone to talk to
Oh yeah.
on anyone's development as a baby, as a big person, as a student, as a you really cannot discount the importance of community in the formation of people, you
Oh
know.
yeah, definitely.
And if you are in a community that doesn't value certain things, you don't get those things. If you're in a community that doesn't value other things, you don't get those things. I think that if you're not working to help somebody do something better, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, if you're not innovating, if you are not creating, if you are not putting your all into it, into something, even if it's not your work, whatever your passion is, if you're not contributing in some way to make yours and therefore everybody else's life better, you know, what are you doing?
That just
So,
creates heart attacks. The
yes.
leading cause of heart attack is when you show up to work on a job that you don't want to go to on Monday morning, right? That's when
Yes.
I've witnessed it. I was
hmm
there. I saw someone have a heart attack Monday morning at the beginning of shift. It was probably, oh boy, it was 18 years ago. But I'll never forget it. He just dropped over because,
hmm
and I knew it because, and most of us there felt the same way. It's like, this is just kind of a dead end job, but we're showing up here for a paycheck. But
Right.
but
Right.
you're not following your passion. You're not really helping anybody in the way that you
hmm
feel like you need to. And so, it's hard on your heart, right? 'Cause
It
you're
is. No, it is. If you don't feel appreciated, if you don't feel like you're like, if it's not meaningful in some way, you know, there's a lot of parts of my job that I don't like, a whole lot of them, like TikTok.
right. Why do I need to
Oh
be
my
on
God, how do you
TikTok?
come up with that many ideas at once?
Right.
You know?
I stay away from TikTok.
You know, the thing is that we have to have a presence, because though our target customer is a parent, our target client is a young adult.
Right.
So we have to be in a place that's accessible to them. You know, they're not going to look at these old ladies on Facebook. You know, they're just not. You know, if you can't even get on it, they don't want to hear it, you know.
Right.
And for better or worse, for better or worse, you know, that's what it is. So
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. And I think that's one thing that the churches have actually done. The church system has done that it hasn't done anywhere else, is that it's still giving you a place to go to become part of a community, right? Everyone feels like they got to have a community there where they can rely on one another. Regardless, who cares what the religious belief system is there. It's creating a community where people feel like they belong, and they have a support system where they can go and rely on one another. I don't think you will always need that. It doesn't matter what kind of community you're
in. Yeah. Yeah.
So we got a little time left. I got my last question for you. What's your what's your favorite story? You're supposed to be thinking this whole time. Maybe you were, you weren't. I don't know. But you were a principal for a while, so I would love to hear a principal story. I actually had a family member who was a principal for a long time, and I never got all of his stories, but I know they were pretty varied.
Yeah. So the this isn't a life-changing story, it's just a funny story.
Okay.
So when my first principal's gig, I was a middle school principal in an independent school, and I took the 5th grade to Boston for the U.S. colonial history unit. And it's me and a bunch of teachers, and we do this unit every single year. It's fun, and it's fun. It's actually a fun trip. And so we get to the second night, whatever, the night before we were leaving, and we're in the hotel, and the alarm goes off. And so we evacuate all the kids, and we go outside, and there's fire trucks and blah, 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 and the kids are all scared. And it turns out a motor in the elevator burned out and set off the smoke detector, but it actually was not a fire, okay? So I got everybody calm. Look, it wasn't actually a fire. It wasn't a false alarm, but it was an emergency, this, that, and the other thing. Just go to bed. Tomorrow we'll get up. We'll do X, Y, and Z. We'll head to the airport. Fine. So we're on the bus to the airport that afternoon. And I say to all the kids, I said, now look, I said, I know we had a lot of fun this week, and I know you're excited to tell your family, but I want to talk to you about what happened last night. I said, I don't want you to upset your families, okay? Please do not tell these people that there was a fire in the hotel and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other thing. Tell them a motor in the elevator burned out, and it turned, and the smoke triggered the smoke detector, so we all got evacuated, but it turned out it was nothing. Say it that way, okay? And they're all like, yes, Mrs. Doar, yes. I'm like, you sure? Everybody, I went and I had everybody say, yes, Mrs. Doar, yes, Mrs. Doar.
Don't want to alert the parents too much. Yeah.
We get to back to school, and this is we get back to school, and back then parents could come through security to come pick up kids from trips. So I'm at the gate and I'm waiting for all the parents to come and pick up their kid from me. And so we're down to like the last 2 kids or whatever, and I'm the last one there. All the teachers have gone. But luggage, baggage claim, everybody's gone. And this last family comes up, and I'm like, all right, we'll go to walk to the end, out of there. And I go, Matthew, and his mother goes, so Matthew, did you have fun? And he's like, yeah. She goes, did anything exciting happen? He goes, oh my God, there was a fire in the hotel.
People were running out, burn on fire.
Yeah. And of course, his mother looks at, and I was actually friends with his mom, and his mother looks at me, and I'm like, there was no fire in the hotel. There was no fire.
The one chance, just the one chance, and you just totally lay down. That's too. Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, that's it.
All kids are that way, right? You're gonna have to make it dramatic. It's just gonna have to
like this kid knew me. You know what I mean? I've been to Christmas parties at his house, and he wasn't joking. He was like, oh my God, let me tell you.
Yeah, it was like so exciting, right? It was so exciting.
So yeah, yeah, that's what kids do. They do things like that.
I
So
love kids. And my favorite age group of kids is about 4 to 7 years old, right? When they really start to get interested in learning, and you can turn, you can turn their creative interests on fire. And especially when you get them involved in group activities and they're helping
yes,
each
yeah,
other. I love doing that.
yeah,
There is
yeah.
nothing more in this world. I had the privilege of having 4 kids of that age group for Thanksgiving this year.
Nice.
And
Okay.
I was cooking. And as soon as I got done cooking, I was like, that's your guys' table over there. That's where I'm going. Let's go. Let's go over there. And all we did is, just basically played with Play-Doh for about 3 hours until their parents made them leave, because it's like, no, we want to stay here. It's like, you guys can stay for as long as you want.
Right, right,
But
right,
yeah.
right, right.
Oh, I had a blast. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I enjoyed. I really like 7 to 10
Okay.
a lot. That's fun because they're willing to go on adventures with you at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're self-sufficient and try to dress themselves. They're ready to go on adventures. They think things are exciting. They still think you're cool. You know,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Before they
So
turn into teenagers. I
yes,
know. As soon as they turn 12, 13, 14, everything changes, man.
yeah, yeah.
I remember
It's
what I went through, and I was just like, yeah, I knew what to expect because I remember.
mhm.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie. I
So,
appreciate you
thank
coming
you so
here
much,
today.
Brian. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
take her easy.
take care.